Tesla is not going bankrupt. Just wanted you guys to know that. But seriously, Tesla really did have a much better week, not only compared to the last week, but also compared to what I expected they were going to have because of the Q1 report came out early in the week, and I expected it to be pretty rough, and it wasn't. Also, sales came out for year up to date and for March. Looks pretty good as well. We'll talk about it. And by the way, I am streaming live right now on Patreon. If you're watching this on YouTube, in replay, also, of course, welcome. And this is my first time streaming live. And you know what? I am going to talk about why I'm no longer streaming on YouTube and why I'm streaming here on Patreon particularly. I know we don't have the live chat going on. I haven't figured that out. Actually, technically, much more difficult than I thought. Let's cover the first story first, and then I'll explain to you guys everything that happened. So let's get going.
Taking over the world, electrifying the world, electric.
All right, so let's talk about the sales first. Now, you know, in the beginning of every month, we get the sales numbers. A lot of times they're not official numbers. Usually they come from the website called insideevs.com, which, by the way, I am now doing weekly recaps as well. So if you go there right now, I have my own pre-recorded weekend update type of a thing. Now, by the way, if you are still watching on YouTube, please click on that subscribe button so you become a part of the community. Of course, if you haven't joined me on Patreon, the link is over here. All right, so the sales numbers are interesting. Now, they just updated the numbers up to date, year up to date, but up to date really means January and February, because that's what the solid numbers, confirmed numbers are. And the winner is BYD, or BYD, however you want to pronounce it. I always get corrected on how I pronounce these names. But nevertheless, if you guys are surprised, don't be. They've been in a spot for like 3 years now. It's a Chinese-based company that makes electric and plug-in electric cars. By the way, these numbers are for together, the electric, all electric and plug-in hybrids. So you know, I'm not surprised now, but some of you are. They only make cars exclusively in China. Number 2 is BMW, which is a bit of a surprise, but again, they've been there before many times. And the third one is Bike, another exclusive company to China. And so BYD and Bike are companies that a lot of other manufacturers partner up when they want to make their cars in China. As you know, you can't just come in and make cars there. You have to partner up with a Chinese-based company, and you can own more than 50% of that. Of course, you have to share your, you know, patents and secrets and so forth, which a lot of companies don't want to do. But unfortunately, that's the only way to avoid a 25% tariff. And we're going to talk about that as well. There's some news on that front. All right. And by the way, welcome to those who are watching on Patreon. I see Lucas, Ron, and others. Welcome, Tony. I see you there as well. Just like I said, I haven't implemented the chat over here, but I do see you guys talking here. So I will just kind of keep my eye on both. All right. So let's talk about sales in the United States, and let's just talk about all electric sales, because if we don't, then it's like Prius is mixed in there. And the winner is also not much of a surprise. I hope you are not surprised. Tesla Model 3, 3,820 sold in a month of March. Now, don't forget, these are estimated numbers. Tesla does not report numbers that are like every month, only quarterly, and a lot of companies. So, you know, kudos to Inside EVs for kind of keeping track of that. It is definitely not easy, and they keep updating the numbers, you know, a week and two after they kind of come up with original numbers for the month sales. Like last time, we did know that Nissan Leaf was the most sold car in the world, and not only until they updated those numbers, we kind of knew that, and I had to kind of issue a bit of a correction. Let's see. Yeah, well, so one of the things that, oh yeah, so let's finish this one up. Model 3 is number 1, Model S and Model X are number 2 and 3 spots, and we'll talk in a second which one, whether it's Chevy Bolt or Nissan Leaf, in the next down on the list, because first 3 spots belong to Tesla. But before that, let's talk about the Q1, right? And this is before that, of course, let me remind you that this show and this channel is sponsored by Evanex, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla. The discount code is in the description of this video on YouTube and on Patreon. So if you're shopping there, you can save yourself a few bucks. I'm actually going to get something for myself in the next couple of weeks. I wanted to get a roadside assistance bag. Never thought about it, but I need one like everybody else. It's got some cool stuff there, so I'm going to order that for myself. All right, let's talk about Q1. Now, everybody, I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of people expected a bit of a disaster, right? Because they promised us they're going to make 2,500 per week of Model 3s. All eyes are Model 3, and they were very much behind. Most of the numbers that were reported throughout Q1 were 7, 8, 900 per week. And even when they were registering the batch of bid numbers, I think last time they only registered 2,000. And I'm saying only because, you know, it's not 2,500 what everybody expected. So, yeah, everybody, you know, but I do have to say they did pull it off. They had a 2, number 2, in front of that number, 2,020 made in the last week of Q1, in the last week of March. And I think once everybody saw that, they're like, okay, they're short. We expected they were to be short, but not as short as we thought, right? Now, granted that, as you probably remember, they really ramped up the production and put all of their efforts in the last week, last time at Q4 of 2017. And what happened was, yeah, they produced 1,000 per week, I believe, whatever they produced there. And then it went back, you know, to 600, 700 for a while, right? So people are expecting them to do the same thing here, but there are some good news there, and it's mainly because they're registering more VIN numbers than ever. Now, before I get there, let me go back to the U.S. sales of electric cars. So I'm just trying to say that Model 3 has done really well and will probably continue doing well. Now, Ron in the chat room in a Patreon says Bloomberg Tracker bumped it up to show 2394. Now that's, I'm assuming, for a month, for the month of March, right? Let's see. I know some of you are still kind of having problems with a viewing it on Patreon. Lucas, sorry about that, but just go ahead and maybe reboot or just ask other people who are in the chat room to help you with that. But I'll definitely you know, make sure to talk to you guys afterwards and see how your experience was, because I'm obviously going to improve this if any of you guys having issues. But if you do want to join the Patreon and watch it live every day, please join me there, patreon.com/E4Electric. All right, so the first car that was anywhere near the top for the US sales for all electric cars is Chevy Bolt. Now, I'm a little surprised because they were struggling. They're still not, I mean, I think it's about 1,800 cars made, still under 2,000. They did say they're going to bump up the production. I don't know if they are already or if this is a sales, you know, issue. A lot of people are saying that they're really not trying to sell this car at all. And I'm kind of starting to believe that, unfortunately. You know, they're obviously, you know, killed the Opel Ampere E, which was their version in Europe, and they haven't really replaced it by importing this car in there. They're nowhere near Japan or China. So yeah, I have to say I'm a little bit disappointed. Nevertheless, they're selling better than Nissan Leaf. Now Nissan Leaf is catching up. They sold, like in March, they just in Japan they sold 3,000 of those. Numbers are still coming out in Europe, but then just in Norway, 15% of all sales, new car sales in Norway was Nissan Leaf. So they're definitely kicking butt everywhere. They just haven't ramped up their sales and production for the United States. I believe they did then manage to sell about 1,500, which is more than last month, which I'm trying to think what the number was. I think 900 or so. So they're definitely ramping up. So I expect Nissan Leaf to beat Chevy Bolt, maybe if not next month, but the month after that. So definitely we'll keep our eye on it, but Model 3 will still be on top from now on, just because the production seems to be finally ramping up. Yes, Tony in the chat room says the best way to silence your critics is to perform. Absolutely agree with that. And, you know, let's talk about Norway sales. Now, for those of you who have never heard the statistics, probably going to be absolutely shocked, but in Norway in March, and they've done it very close to this in December of last year, but in Norway, 55% of all new car sales were either all electric or plug-in hybrid cars. Now, this is huge because you have to understand the global sales for electric cars are about 1.2%, still very low, right? But in one of the coldest countries where, you know, electric cars are usually not the best performers, right? Because of the battery, it's tougher to charge. It's definitely, the range is much shorter. And yet these guys have figured out how to basically have the majority of the new cars sold in there to be electric cars, basically, right? Plug-in hybrids or all electric. So it's I mean, kudos to these guys. Somehow we gotta you know, duplicate it, because it is definitely something that it just still shocks me every time that I hear it. They did, I believe, 50% in December. Then now they're doing 55 in March. Kudos to them. I can't wait for them. Pretty much, it's probably going to be them to hit like maybe 95 at some point, or even maybe 100 in the next 5 years. And I think it's definitely going to happen. Now, you know, just like I mentioned, we're still very much, you know, it's just still beginning stages for the electric cars. Just like I mentioned, 1% of all global sales. It's not like it was 0.5% last year. Now it's 1%. No, it was still about a 1% last year. And, you know, we increased the sales maybe by 20 or 30%. So it's not going that fast. And I'm a little bit concerned about that, because I'm assuming it's going to be an S-curve kind of adoption, but no such indication that like this is really taking over. Yes, we're waiting for the Model 3 to kind of, you know, to expand. And I do see them here more and more every day now. I don't think that a day went by I haven't seen Model 3 driving around here. I drove one last week myself. Once again, I'm confirming for you guys, it's an amazing freaking car, especially for the money that you're getting. Not better than the Model S, but I'm telling you, for like half the price and compared to all of the same class cars, like, you know, 3 Series BMW or C-Class Mercedes-Benz, not even close, just not even close. And I gotta tell you, that monitor is really growing on me. I never had a problem with it, but it's just so much closer than I thought, and the resolution is so good, and the colors and how easy it is to use. I definitely kind of fell in love with it all over again last week. But yeah, we're waiting for that. Obviously, a lot of new electric cars, cool, good looking with good range electric cars are coming out at the end of this year, in the beginning of the next year. But yesterday, I had a guest on my show, Robert Bollinger, who is the CEO of Bollinger Motors. They are just about to enter production at the end of the year, maybe the beginning of next year, for their sports utility truck, off-road, all-electric, kind of a Jeep meets Land Rover type of a car. And I don't know if I've covered them a few times here on the show, but I loved having him on. Everybody, I think, loved the conversation that we had. And here's what he said about what needs to happen in order for us to really start growing the electric car sales in the world. Here we go.
Anyway, I think that the biggest way that we'll suddenly have a big chunk of electric cars out there is when it can make money for the big three. And right now, all electric vehicles that are sold on the road are at a loss because of the cost of electric that it is now. So when you have a Model X and a Model S, you know, with the options up there, you know, above $100,000, and that's where it's starting to pay for itself, you know, especially because Tesla is still very, very low volume compared to the big three. So I think, you know, the Bolt, all these vehicles, it's well known that they are being sold for less than what they cost.
Yeah, and it looks like he might be right. I mean, you can watch the whole interview on my show. It's a featured on my show, on my channel. It's a featured video there. youtube.com/4electric/e4electric, and we discuss it further. You know, I was kind of hoping that we don't have to wait for those big three, and we really can just get it from inside, from all the startups like Tesla and so forth, and some of the willing manufacturers like Nissan and I guess Jaguar now, and Audi and so forth, and dare I say Volkswagen Group. But it was definitely an interesting conversation, this guy. And, you know, that company, Bollinger, is like 8 people, and they're just about to make this amazing car. And by the way, you don't have to put down any type of money. You just have to go and put your name down, and boom, you're on a reservation list. It's a sin not to put your name on it, because you never know, once they start making it, you know, depending on the price, we don't know the price, that can actually happen. And I'm really excited for them. Definitely hoping to meet him, maybe at the LA Auto Show, but at some point in person. Really cool story. All right, so before we go on, and you know, we'll talk about the what's happening with the Model 3 this month and moving forward. There's some more really good news. Let me explain to you guys why I am not streaming on YouTube, but when I'm only going live on Patreon. So now I am streaming live on Patreon, patreon.com/E4Electric. And this Patreon is a website where people can contribute money to the creators, so we can, you know, buy our equipment, pay for our travel. You know, I'm hoping one day to have this as my main job, so I can do even a better job on this. You just go there, you sign up, and you can contribute. In my case, I only have $1, $3, and $5. I have updated those, and you know, so Patreon's kind of meant to be as a tip jar, right? You know, you want to tip your performer, if you will, kind of a thing. In my case, I'm looking at more of kind of a subscription kind of a deal, where I'm actually providing a value to you guys. As much as I appreciate you contributing, and thank you for those of you guys who are Patreons right now and watching me live, I believe for giving something for the money that I'm getting paid, right? And I am. And I was already doing behind the scene footage and some pictures of my personal life that you guys are asking about, bloopers, outtakes, and exclusive material. But now I really want to up my game, and you can see what you get now for just $1. You get all of my, you know, Facebook type of posts with my pictures and stuff, any type of comments and blogs that I put in. I did put up a video yesterday, because I'm now doing weekly updates for InsideEVs.com. So I just put up that whole video for you guys to check out. So for $3, you're getting videos also that I post there, along with pictures and posts. But for $5 now, and I really try to keep a balance between people, you know, watching in other countries, because I mean, I know it's a lot of money in other countries, other places, but now you get all the pictures, all the videos, all the posts, but now you also get to watch me live. And of course, if you're on YouTube, don't worry, it will be reposted. You will just get to see it in a pre-recorded replay, as many of you have before. But now, if you're a Patreon, not only are you going to get to watch it live, you're also going to get to participate in chat. The chat is going to be implemented right here. I'm watching in the chat right now, and it's good to see people watching, and so many supporters and regulars are watching. And I hope to grow that community even bigger. But I felt that it was a good value to give those who contribute and help me out achieve the goal here on Patreon to be able to have faster and better access to our conversation and be part of this community. Now, why the change, right? So let's talk about why the change. Now, as you know, I've been streaming on YouTube, and let me just say it one more time. Nothing will change on YouTube. Still daily videos. Monday through Friday, I do kind of shorter videos, 15 minutes or so. I don't know if you consider them shorter, but news, everyday news. On Saturday, I have an interview or any kind of a special event. So that's kind of very different. I think a lot of you guys been liking that, and I've been loving it. And on Sunday, like today, we do subscriber hangout, recap the week. You know, I talk to everybody who's in the chat, and we kind of have a good time for, you know, for a while. It's a much longer conversation, a longer video. So that will stay the same. Everything's going to be in the replay. But why, right? Now, as you know, I kind of suddenly stopped streaming about it's been about a week now, right? Now, what happened, and I'm just gonna, again, I'm sorry if you guys are maybe not interested in inside how this whole thing works. You can fast forward to the next story that I'll probably in about 5 or 10 minutes, I'll get back to that. But I know a lot of you have been asking me about this, so I just wanted to kind of address this once and for all. This story is not even over. That's why I've been kind of waiting to see if there is an end to it. But anyway, so on YouTube, usually it's very strict about what kind of videos you can use, right? You cannot use other pictures or videos or sounds that are copyrighted and you're just kind of stealing them and making money on them and using it for your video, which is fair enough. I mean, I totally agree. But if you're doing a news show like I do, and if you're using someone else's video to talk about that, or to talk about the subject, like you see, I run a lot of B-rolls, right? To illustrate something, like, for example, right now I'm playing a B-roll from Tesla. Now this is their official media kit video, and they allow all of the media to use it, but even if they didn't, even if it was somewhere else, I could still use it because there's a fair use law and a policy also on Facebook that I can use the video that that I'm talking about, as long as it's not the product, right? As long as I'm commenting on it. So I've been doing that all along, but again, I've usually tried to use media kits and their YouTube channel videos that are kind of out there already publicly. So, and I've been doing this all along. One day I wake up and I get what it's called copyright strike here on YouTube, which means that they're saying that I have violated copyright laws, I infringed on someone's copyrights, and so that video was taken down. I looked at the part of the video they said there was a problem with, and this was a B-roll that I used from Rimac, well, you know, the supercar from Europe that I've been talking about a lot. And that's what I got a copyright strike. So I was like, well, that's kind of weird, because I don't, even if they didn't want me to use that video, which I wouldn't know why, I still have a right to use it because it's fair use, right? It's called fair use. And the company that submitted copyright strike wasn't Rimac, it was actually Star India, and I was a little confused. So I contacted Rimac because we have a relationship, and I said, guys, what's going on? Like, why can't I use this video? And they were like, you're more than welcome to use this video. A lot of people are using this video, of course. And I said, well, you just submitted copyright strike. And they're like, what are you talking about? We did not. Turns out that this company, Star India, came to YouTube and said, you know what? We want to claim copyright on this video. And YouTube ended up granting it to them for some weird reason. Needless to say, Rimac is pissed off. And so they basically became the official owner of that video and started submitting copyright infringement strikes against everybody who was using it. And I was one of them, but guess who was next? Rimac. Rimac is the company who produced the video, hosted on their social media, including YouTube, actually had that video removed. You can go to their YouTube channel right now and see that video is no longer there because that's some other company removed it. Now, when you get a copyright strike on YouTube, you have your right to live stream taken away from you for 3 months or until it's resolved. Now, on YouTube, you are guilty until proven innocent. Not the other way around. First of all, they take everything away from you, and then they try to figure out. Now, of course, I submitted the rebuttals, rebuttal, whatever. What do you call it? Email or whatever you call it. Then I said, hey guys, first of all, fair use. Secondly, I have a permission to use this video. You're mistaken about who owns it. But it takes 30 days for YouTube to look at it. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to live stream on YouTube for at least 30 days. Now, I'm very certain they're going to reinstate that video and take my strike away from me. But nevertheless, this process really freaked me out because really, as I'm sitting here explaining this to you, I shouldn't be. You guys should not be listening to this right now. So I figured, you know what? I never want to be in this position again. So instead of going back to live on YouTube and knowing they can kind of screw me and you guys over any minute, I've decided I'm going to stream live every day on a platform that will not screw me over. And that's Patreon. Now, Patreon uses Crowdcast software to actually do the live streaming, and it is actually pretty good. I mean, I really like it. There's a live chat. There's also, you can ask questions and have answers. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on. The quality is good, so I'm excited. But then I'll upload these videos on YouTube, so you guys can still see it in replay. So it looks like, and then I will, and I do upload every day a new video. It's going to be about a 1 hour, 2 hours of delay of when you watch it replay. So for those of you guys who are watching this on YouTube, nothing will change really. But if you do want to continue watching the show live, just kind of be the first ones to hear it, and most importantly, participate in the conversation. As you know, we had a lot of chat going on here. It will be a little bit slower, but that only means that only people who really want to participate will have their comments displayed here and read out and answered as much as I can. So I know I went on and on and on about this, but I just kind of wanted to let you guys know, be honest with you, what happened. You know, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I am getting back to being live. I am live right now. Love it. I mean, I just love being live. If you're watching this on YouTube, that means that I just reposted it. So that's what happened. Now, by the way, I will answer all of the questions if you have, or maybe comments and so forth. Ron in the chat room says, also you can add it to calendar, which is great. A lot of people been asking for this. So you can actually add it to the calendar, and your calendar will let you know when I'm live. But that will be at 11 a.m. pretty much every day. I know it was late today because of the technical issues, but I'll fix them very soon. I apologize about that. Ron also says, YouTube has good reasons to be conscious about copyright infringement, but there is just no common sense for nonsense claims. They have swung the pendulum too far to the other way. I absolutely agree. Yes. I absolutely agree that copyright infringement is absolutely awful. I wouldn't want somebody taking my videos and creating another channel and, you know, living off of that, you know, or making any money. But yeah, it's the whole, you know, guilty until proven innocent thing is ridiculous. And, you know, not only the creators suffer, like imagine if I was living off of this, right? And my rent and my household income dependent on this. Hopefully one day it will. So it's definitely, I hope they fix it, but they've been like this for a while. Don't forget, us creators, we're the product. We're not the clients. Their clients are advertisers. So I don't know how many rights we have. My job is to fix this and to make sure this doesn't happen ever again. Lucas says, be friendly to YouTube, same like they are to... Be friendly to YouTube, same like they are to you. They try to use their position of monopolist. I prefer live stream here. There you go. Thumbs up. I agree. All right, guys, let's get back to the news. Again, if you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer in the comment section. Patreon comments obviously answered first, and then the ones on YouTube. But let's get back to Model 3 and the production. Now, there's some, you know, milestones that are hitting. We discussed it last week, and I didn't really like what apparently Elon sent an email on like April 1st, very like minutes after midnight, and he was just saying how they've hit this milestone of 2,000 cars. Congratulations. And you know, I understand that they had that goal in there. By the way, for those of you guys who just can't stand me saying anything negative about Tesla, please just do this for a little bit. But that was, I'm all good for a CEO or anybody or manager congratulating your employees for hitting a milestone. But the only milestone you would worry about on that particular day is the 2,500, which you promised. If you hit your own internal milestone, that's great. You know, this email was going to leak out. You sent it to your entire Tesla employee staff. So I believe that's not the number to talk about. You guys got very close, and everybody worked really hard, and I think that's already good enough. But I just didn't really think that that was really a milestone on that particular day. Let me emphasize, on that particular day. This is the guy who leaked that email. Not that there weren't going to be others to do that. Now, Elon was having a bit of a fun, as you've probably seen this picture 1,000 times, just kind of making fun of all the predictions that Tesla is going bankrupt. Not all of the prediction, one prediction really, but it made so much news that everybody was talking about it. You know, it's a funny picture. I thought everybody got it. You know, but at the same time, it means that he's very confident and he's just brushing everything up and moving forward. As you can see, they are having a much better week. So yeah, why not have a little bit of fun with it? You know, here's their stock. You know, this is a rebounding from 42-week low, which again was just, you know, tough week. I think it went down all the way to $250 a share, and then it bounced back to about around 300 or so. So not a bad rebound. Yeah, so funny. Okay, funny. Let's see. Now we're talking about, oh yeah, so there's more interesting and good news as far as Model 3 is concerned, because as you know, as every manufacturer makes more cars, they have to register a batch of VIN numbers, right, to use for their cars. And Tesla's been doing it every week or so, and they usually, if you would look at how many VINs they would register, that production number is usually was hit about 4 to 6 weeks after that. So for example, 2 weeks ago they registered I think 2,000 VINs, right? And yes, they achieved it a little bit sooner than 4 or 6 weeks, but it's probably for just that 1 week. But and there's a Twitter account that tracks that, and oh yeah, I had a slide for that. So the good news is this week they've registered almost 5,000 VINs, and then as we got excited about that, they registered almost 3,000 more VINs. So we're talking about almost 8,000 of VIN numbers for just like 1 week. And of course, they don't owe anything to anybody as far as how many VINs they're going to be registering how often. But this does look like a major production ramp up. Now, something that a lot of people already forgot about, but they had a Groman Engineering, the company they've acquired in Germany to build robots for this line. They had an assembly line that they had going in Germany. They had to kind of package it all up, move it to here to the Fremont factory, and unpack it and make it work. They were supposed to make the move in the middle of March, but kind of knowing Tesla and all logistical issues they always have, we never heard about this being operational. Because once it is operational, it could just be almost more than double the production, right? Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe they kind of got this thing here late, and now they're pretty confident that they're going to be outputting more Model 3s than ever before. So this is very interesting news. And in a Q1 report, Tesla and Elon said that they are going to keep their target of 5,000 Model 3s made per week. For the Q2. And that is major. If they really can hit that, and we're this, and it looks like it might actually happen. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you think that they can actually get there, and we should trust him this time around. I'm taking everything he says with a grain of salt, of course. Tony says Norway being at the top in terms of electric car sales is amazing. This is an intellectual property issue. Sounds like someone is interrupting. Sorry, I wasn't trying to send that. Okay. All right. That's me reading live comments live. I was hoping I would get a good one from Tony, but I guess he pressed enter accidentally. Yeah, but I agree with you as far as Norway's being on top of the list is awesome news. I still can't believe that. It's such good news. Every time I hear about it, it is definitely great. By the way, if you're watching this video on oh yeah, I was going to talk about it, but I already did. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up. Always makes it perform much better later on. We're going to stay on the topic of Tesla for a little bit now, because yesterday, usually Saturday and Sunday a slow news day. Well, today they've let me go back to a Model 3 for just one more second. They've announced Elon announced that they're going to make the all-wheel drive dual motor version in July. I know I just said I take everything he says with a grain of salt, but that's at least there's sort of an official date for that. And a lot of people expect it, especially in colder states and in Canada. Obviously the performance of the battery is not as great, but having an all-wheel drive in a rainy and snowy weather is very important to a lot of people. Let me know in the chat room or in the comment section on YouTube if you guys live in one of those states or in Canada, how important it is to you. But from what I understand, it is. So good news for that. All right, let me move on to a semi-truck that we haven't heard from in a while. Now, we did see this picture of it being towed, what it looked like being towed. I forget where this was, but this was posted on Instagram by JRG. And there's another picture that's even harder to see, but I mean, it is prototype, and it looks like there are quite a few of them out there now, not just the two that we kind of know about. And it looks like it did break down, but again, it's not a big deal. Or maybe it ran out of juice, who knows? But this is not an uncommon for prototypes. That's why they're prototypes, right? Not the production car. And production cars break down. We see semis on the side of the road, right? Or getting towed all the time. So can you really blame the prototype? And yes, Lucas in the chat room also says, if I hear good news, they bring back incentives to Tesla in Germany and they can build superchargers again. That's great. Hope we can see soon Model 3 in Germany and Europe. Dual motors is critical in Cleveland, Ohio, says Ron. So there you go. A few more months, guys. A few more months. Okay, so now some good news about the semi-truck, because TCI Transportation. Now, this is a company that rents trucks out and leases them out to companies. So they don't really have their own business from what I understand. But if you need a truck, maybe for one-time use or maybe even for long-term use, these are the guys that rent it out. And they placed, you know, one of the biggest orders up to date now, 50. And they say, yes, 50. They're yelling, yes. Well, I understand they're excited. And look at this picture of the two co-founders, I think co-presidents of TCI Transportation, photobombing, really, what otherwise would have been a great picture of the semi-truck. But I understand they're excited. So good for them. One of the biggest orders. You know, it's good to know that now people can hopefully try this truck out once they get their order and maybe order their own. So that's pretty interesting news, which kind of leads me to into the non-Tesla news for once. This was a heavy Tesla news week, but Nikola. You know, they have this prototype of Nikola 1, which is a hydrogen fuel cell powered semi-truck, and they don't even have a factory yet. They are planning on producing it by 2022, which this baffles me. You know, I don't know if hydrogen fuel cell technology is even going to be alive at 2022. Here in the United States, I don't think it ever took off. Any type of hydrogen fuel cell cars like Toyota Mirai or Hyundai Nexo, they can only operate here in California. We have very few fueling station as is, and doesn't seem like we're building any more. I know it's a little bit more popular in Europe and especially more popular in Japan, but this American company looks like they're going to be selling to American, or at least companies who operate here in the United States, and I'm not really sure what's going to happen with that. But nevertheless, now they've decided to get into the news, which they did. Well, obviously, we're talking about it. But they said that they have up to $8 billion in orders right now on their reservation list. But what they did is they gave everybody a refund for their reservation down payment, however you want to call it. They said that unlike other companies, we don't want to take your money and use it for our operations. Interesting move. I personally don't see anything wrong with using the money that the company got as a reservation placeholder, because it is a service. You are getting your place in line to get the car sooner rather than later. I think a lot of people who reserved and now got their Model 3s agree that was a pretty good value for them. It is fully refundable, so really it's almost, it's a holding deposit, right? I've given this example once or twice before, but I think it's a good one, because when I go to Safeway or whatever grocery store and I buy a carton of milk for, let's say, $3, I take it home, but I can still return it. If I believe the milk was spoiled or I just don't like the way it tastes today, I can go back and get my money back. But that grocery store is still going to report that $3 as part of their sales, even though that can still be refunded at some point, because they sold it to me and because I have gotten some value for it. Could be temporary value, could be bringing it back, getting a refund, but they're going to count it. And they're going to use that money to maybe buy more milk so they can sell it more and more. So just operations. So I don't see anything wrong with it. Not really sure why Nikola thought a problem with it, but I said it many times before. I don't believe taking swipes at Tesla like this is a good idea, especially if you're that behind. But they got themselves in the news, and now people can reserve their trucks without putting any deposits in at all. Lucas in the chat room says, any news about the Thor EV semi-truck? So Thor is a company that actually doesn't make semi-trucks, electric semi-trucks. They convert the current semi-trucks into electric. I think the cost is almost as much as buying a brand new Tesla semi-truck, I think around $150,000. But I see them on social media. They post pictures and everything. I haven't seen anything new, but they're out there still. Ron says, Nicholas unfinished quote, because nobody would give us their deposit anyway. Well, they. I don't understand why anybody would, but it looks like they have $8 billion in sales that they're claiming, or potential sales, reservations. So I don't know. Let's talk about this gas guzzler right now. I'm probably wondering why I have it on the screen. Mercedes-Benz S-Class, I think it goes like 3 miles a gallon right now. But the reason I'm showing it to you guys, because as you know, Mercedes is trying to electrify their fleet under the EQ series for their fleet. Excuse me. Tea with honey. Everybody recommended this, so I don't lose my voice as fast. I think it's helping too. All right, sorry about that. And so now Mercedes are saying that they're going to add a luxury 4-door full sedan to their EQ projected lineup. Obviously, they're converting this car, very popular, into one that's probably going to be called EQS. I'm excited about it. There are no pictures, there's no prototypes, nothing, but I just kind of wanted to mention it because, you know, they have been doing pretty well. They've invested a lot of money, billions of dollars, into electrifying their fleet in the United States and Europe and in China. They've, as you know, partnered up with BYD company we talked about earlier today to produce their cars just specifically for China. So definitely kudos to them. Let me scroll back and see. Oh yeah, so we got to talk about this one. Tony says, just because Nikola has decided not to refund deposits and not required for reservations to refund, probably you meant, doesn't mean that companies who do that mean something negative. I agree with you. We just talked about Bollinger, right? And I don't have a problem with them not taking deposits and just having you hold their spot. I absolutely agree. Good for Nikola if it works. Also smart of other companies for taking a deposit. Yeah, I don't really have a problem with that. It's thing I have I mean, it is news for them, and it is kind of weird to take deposits and give them back. You have to admit that is odd. But at the same time, taking a swipe at Tesla while doing that, again, I just don't think it's a good idea for any company that's this behind. But yeah, Tony, you're right there as far as there's nothing wrong with it. If you're doing that originally, or even a delay, you know, they can change their mind. Okay, so let's talk about this. I mean, you really thought that we're going to get through a week without using this picture. This one is, of course, from 101 crash here in Mountain View a couple of weeks ago, where unfortunately the driver of Model X had passed away of his injuries after the accident. And, well, the reason I'm bringing it up, well, first of all, NTSB was unhappy with Elon releasing the information about that this car was indeed using an autopilot, but for about 5 or 6 seconds, there was no hands detected on the wheel. Earlier in the trip, apparently the driver was warned a few times visually and with a sound signal that the person wasn't keeping the hands on the wheel, and so there was plenty of time to react, but there was no hands detected on the wheel. I have no problems with Tesla releasing it. I mean, it's their product. It's a big story for them, so I don't really understand. I'm going to refill. I really don't understand why NTSB is all upset about it, because I think, you know, Elon in the company has more than enough rights. I feel like I'm at a picnic, you know, but I just want to make sure my voice doesn't go faster than it really does usually. Probably talking loudly at the club on a Saturday night never helps me, right? But anyway, so I don't have a problem with it. I don't know why NTSB had a problem with it. Elon kind of fired back with this tweet saying, you know, he's got lots of respect for NTSB, but basically they need to shut the hell up and mind their own business. I am paraphrasing, but you can read the actual tweet right here. I mean, I agree with them. I really don't understand. It's not like they've released an information that was supposed to, that would jeopardize the investigation in any way, you know, and they've yet to explain themselves why this is a problem for them. So I'm with Elon on this one. Okay, so but the reason is the reason for to be concerned is because there are a couple of videos that came out since, and they were made by a couple of people. One is a guy in Chicago who picked up a spot that is very similar to the one where this accident happened, but he did it at night, and it was obviously a different part of the road. But nevertheless, what he shows us is that it's a very similar scenario, and yet the autopilot of Tesla gets confused, and almost runs the car into the same middle divider as the guy who crashed the car in 101. And that's concerning, because if you can reproduce this in real life, then, and you have to pay attention as often as 3 to 4 to 5 seconds, then again, I've already said it many times, I know a lot of you guys don't agree, but to me, there's no reason for me to pay or have an autopilot if I, boom, see, here, this is where it ended up. Now, and again, I know you guys disagree with me, but if there's enough of us who believe that, autopilot should be something that really be taking over our driving, especially on the freeway where it's relatively easy, and we really can't take our hands off of the wheel, and we really need to pay attention as often as 3 seconds, what good is the autopilot? Really, like, what good is it? Yes, it is making it a little bit easier in traffic, but to me, again, this is totally my personal opinion. This is not in any way an official analysis of this. And I know we've disagreed a few times in the comment section, but that's my thing. But this is bad, right? Now, so here's another guy who did this test during the day, and this was exactly at that spot here on 101. Now, this is where 85 freeway forks off of the 101, I believe, southbound. And he ran this test twice, and you'll see twice he had to take over. The reason he doesn't really get close to it is because he takes over and he swerves to the right to even avoid being in that little divider portion, right? I've reached out to City of Mountain View and the fire department and the California Highway Patrol, and they all told me I need to talk to the Department of Transportation of California, and they have not returned my calls so far. Surprise, surprise. I mean, obviously, poorly maintained part of the area. It does look like they put up, let me just actually watch it one more time to make sure. It does look like they've put up the crumble zone area back, as you can see right there. Oh, they have not. Wow, okay. But this is something that Tesla needs to take care of. I know that the markings are odd there and it's a little bit worn out, and I understand how you can mistake it, especially if the sun is reflecting off of the lines and cracks on the freeway differently than the actual lane dividers. But this is a problem, and the fact that people were able to reproduce it is probably not going to help the findings for the NDSB, and therefore I just feel this whole autopilot thing is making us steps backwards rather than forward. And let me know in the chat room, let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think? Do you believe it should be named autopilot? Do you believe it should be a feature, or is just, as we're finding out, is either useless or just not ready for prime time? Let me know. I'll take this sip. Okay, well, Lucas might have a point here. He says, because they rewrote the autopilot in last month, it's a chance for a much safer system update in the future. Hopefully, it does look like they rewrote a lot of it. Hopefully, it can actually. I'll be interested in people who got that update, if they can reproduce it on a hopefully in that part of the freeway, but anywhere else where this could be a problem, maybe this was fixed. Obviously, we do need to make sure that we talk about that. Department of Transportation's job is to make sure that the lines are drawn correctly, especially in critical zones like this one, that the signs are posted and are bright. I don't remember what it's called, but when you go into this area, your car should start vibrating because you put this little dips in the concrete. And of course, either a bunch of those buckets with water, or the crumble zone divider protector should be there as well. And they fail in every single part of it. And if this has really contributed to this accident, which probably did, I'm speculating, whether it was the driver who was fooled or the autopilot, I hope somebody goes to jail, because this is a criminal offense, I believe. Again, this is just my personal opinion. Let me know in the comment section if you agree with me as well. By the way, I just showed you guys a clip earlier from the Bollinger CEO, Robert Bollinger. We had a good conversation. You can see it as a featured video on my channel. But let's talk about the next week. Rich Rebuilds. A lot of you guys are looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. I really love watching his videos. A lot of information that he gives are just absolutely priceless, because there's nowhere else you can you can get there, because he's the guy who basically rebuilds Teslas. He knows a lot about what happens just on the inside and what happens when your Tesla is used or was in an accident. And so really looking forward to having that conversation. Just the lineup for my Saturday interviews are pretty cool this month. I really enjoyed it. The week after that, I'm going on this Cali trip with my Tesla adventure. If you guys want to join us, I believe TeslaTakeover.com is where you can get your spot. I think it's like $50 per car, but we're going to be hanging out on one of the largest superchargers in the United States at Calumet City. And then we're going to all drive in the caravan to Avila Beach, one of my favorite beautiful beach towns in California. I'm going to try to stream live from there, obviously on Crowdcast or Patreon here, if I figure that out, how to do it from my phone. If not, I'll just post a video later in the day or the next day. So that should be fun. And then Zach and Jesse are going to be here on the 28th. So I'm excited about that. Let's see. Ron in the chat room says, I do think many people's first impression with Autopilot is that they can type where they want to, go into the nav and let go. It's more like airline Autopilot. Well, actually, this was the argument we were having, right? Everywhere on in my comment section is, well, no, the Autopilot actually for a plane is very similar to what it is for Tesla. You need to still pay attention and like literally be involved as a pilot. The name is misleading because people think that Autopilot for the plane is where you don't have. I mean, I think they've watched airplane movies maybe too much, but or just movies, right? But the general perception is that Autopilot means that, yeah, the car drives for yourself. I understand it's false for the planes. I understand it's false for Tesla. But because of the perception, even if only 10% of people perceive it that way, that's 10% of people who we're putting in danger just by naming the damn thing wrong, right? Yes, I know Tesla puts it on a manual and always make sure that, you know, they put it in the fine print that it is a driver assist, but just call it that. Just call it driver assist or co-pilot or whatever. When you say Autopilot, and a lot of people think that is just self-driving car, that's where maybe the misunderstanding happens. Why doesn't anyone care what kind of car hit the same barrier weeks before? We do, but we won't know probably until NDSB has its own investigation concluded. So I'm very interested in what happened there, because somebody hit the damn thing pretty hard, right? And why it wasn't fixed. Lucas says should be changed for auto cruise assistant. Much easier for most people to understand meaning of it. I agree, but a lot of people disagree. I don't think it's that big of a deal, right? Really, I don't want to dedicate any more time than we already spent on it. But granted that renaming it might alleviate some of the confusion for a lot of people. Tony says, I agree with Ron. Why hasn't the media reported on the barrier and the time frame they're repairing it when damaged? No, people reported it. I mean, we've talked about it, right? That a lot of it had to do, and actually that wasn't a Tesla official statement that we discussed, is that, hey, why wasn't that barrier fixed after the crash? Obviously somebody already crashed into it, and I'm assuming that wasn't a Tesla, so a human crashed into it. So why wasn't it repaired? Why wasn't the markings better? And then why the reaction time was so slow? Was it ever going to get repaired? Why isn't it repaired right now? Actually, I should probably drive there today and see, or maybe tomorrow, if it's repaired or not. But they're not replying to my calls, but no, people have talked about it. Obviously, this is going to be a big part of the investigation of NDSB, because I bet a partial fault for this will be given to the Department of Transportation, who I'm assuming are in charge of maintaining these roads. Yes, Ron says they at least could have put up water barriers in its place, and that's actually what's supposed to happen. Obviously it takes a while to replace that little structure, right? Because, it's kind of construction, but bringing a bunch of buckets with water, as you see a lot of the times, shouldn't take more than a few hours, actually. Especially in a dangerous part like this, especially after an accident like that, right? It's not like somebody just came over and kind of vandalized it, right? And this means that it really necessary. So we'll see what happens, but people do care about it. People have talked about it as well. All right, let's talk about government a little bit more. I know you guys are probably excited about it, but we got to talk about it. EPA chief that is very anti-APA, actually. They finally said, okay, we are going to go ahead and kill all the Obama regulations and limitations and restrictions on gas-powered cars, what their mileage performance should be, how much they can screw up in our environment. I'm not surprised. The only thing I'm surprised about is why it took them, year and a half that they've been in power to finally do this, and they haven't even actually implemented it or even put it kind of in writing. They just said we intend to do this. Now it's not a big deal because there are a few things like this is not like boom, we're gonna make it happen and it's gonna go into effect like tomorrow. It does take a while and undo a lot of things because companies already there are some milestones they have to meet and everything. It's not an easy process. On top of that, there are a bunch of states, including here in California, where we have our own regulations. I believe California has one of the most strict regulations in the world. Definitely United States. EPA is also trying to fight those states where they just going to enforce and override the state's requirements. I don't quite understand why it's allowed. And again, I mean, good that it's allowed, I guess, but I'm not really sure why it's not regulated. But nevertheless, the states, I think 11 of them, have already filed a lawsuit against EPA to keep their rights to regulate, to have their own regulations for the mileage and so forth. So this is going to drag on and on and on. And if this administration doesn't last past its first term, then by the time anything they're trying to implement with EPA is trying to implement right now will probably be undue by the next administration, which I'm assuming would be Democratic if this one doesn't last, right? And they will undo it before it really takes any effect and does any damage. So not surprising, but this may just be a moot point at this point. Let's continue talking about politics. Before that, I'll read Tony's reply. Tony says people also need to be responsible when using Autopilot as well as many other things in our society. I agree with that. Having said that, he says there is no amount of training that will educate people enough to change their perception. Exactly, Tony. Perception is one of those things that are not always logical or something that can be changed. Perception is just kind of a reality, is a lot of people say, right? If people think something, it's really hard to change their minds about it. And a lot of people don't give a crap about being educated about Autopilot. They have their mind set already for the last 40 years or whatever, and that's how they're going to go with. So, and he continues to say renaming it would make more sense. I agree, but there are a lot of people who don't agree. So there. Thanks guys for waiting for me on this one, because tea with honey is really good. All right, trade wars. Well, as we know that Donald Trump has started a bit of a trade war back and forth. It's probably part of the negotiating process in his mind, and probably it is. Sooner or later, we'll probably have to negotiate United States and China about the tariffs. Now, this was not without help of Elon Musk. Elon Musk tweeted at Trump a while back. Actually, I don't have the tweet right now, but that, hey, that's unfair for me to pay 25%, on tariffs to bring my Teslas to China. It's hard to compete obviously with their market in China, and if I want to, then I have to partner up with a Chinese company, which I don't want to do. But when Chinese or any other country's manufacturers import cars to the United States, the tariff is 10 times less, which is 2.5%. He also equated it to running a marathon in lead shoes, which I thought was actually a pretty good analogy for this one. Now, not that Trump listens to Musk or anybody really, but this whole thing started back and forth. Now, one of the latest China responses from China putting more tariffs. Not really sure that they're going to be affecting Tesla just yet. Not really sure how much more tariff you can really put on any products until they just completely become useless or very, very small, kind of a niche commodity. But this is obviously a problem. So I'm assuming that is just part of the way he negotiates, right? Obviously got him pretty far with North Korea. But again, I don't want to talk politics, but this is something that we're probably going to hear more and more, because this can reshape the way we do business in China. China is one of the largest, if not the largest country for electric cars, and one of the most friendliest country for electric cars. So definitely this will affect a balance of electric car manufacturing as well. So something to keep our eyes on for the next few months, most likely. Let's talk about BMW i3 and i8. I usually don't want to, but we're gonna have to. You guys know I'm not really a fan. I really believe that this was made like almost like a compliance car. I hate the way it looks. Looks like a compliance car. They haven't improved the range in a long time. I mean, they have, but not significantly. And now they're announcing that actually i3 and i8, which I didn't really even consider for an electric car. I mean, it's an electric car plug-in with like 3.5 miles of electric range or whatever. But they're saying that they're going to, i3 and i8 are not going to be part of their electrified future, that they're building their new sort of fleet of electric cars from scratch. And so these cars, I guess, are just going to kind of die. And I'm going to say that I'm not going to cry about it. I've never liked this car. I think it's one of those cars that I know a lot of you guys do, and you can buy them very cheap right now, especially here in California. You can really, I think it could be $20,000 really, with all the incentives from either Costco or PG&E or Edison Energy. I think that same deal is also applied in parts of New Jersey. But after all the incentives, the car goes from $40,000 to $20,000 here in California. Not a bad deal, but nevertheless, just not a fan. So, not going to cry about it, but let me know if you guys are going to miss it. I'm curious to know. Now, let's talk about Workhorse, a company that I really like. I've interviewed them at CES and featured their W15 electric hybrid plug-in truck. Has about, 90 miles of range to go on. This is not it, by the way. This is just their... We're going to talk about that in a second. But their W15 truck is like the only pickup truck, electric pickup truck that's going to enter the market. Yes, it has a BMW, same one that they use it for i3 extender. It's a plug-in hybrid, but nevertheless, if you want an electric truck, this is really the only option you're going to have. I like their company. They also are working with Ryder to provide services for their cars. So I like them. I think they're doing things slowly but right. Now, this is their N-Gen delivery truck. Only has about 100 miles on range, but for deliveries, like in the city deliveries, that's all you need most of the time. I think it's a good-looking truck right there. And they've made their very first, I shouldn't say sell, the very first batch of them that was purchased by companies in San Francisco. Finally launched it. I don't know why they wanted to stay anonymous, but they are. Now, there's another order that they just got. They're claiming $7 million worth of those trucks. And it's now San Diego, California company. They also would like to stay anonymous for some reason. But good for Workhorse that they're making progress. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing them finally kind of flourish and get all the electric truck products out there. I'm really rooting for them. Let's see, let's move on to Renault Zoe. It was kind of a little stories that I did, but a lot of people started making a lot of comments about it, and I ended up featuring it as a comment of the day for like three weeks in a row, or 3 days in a row. So as you know, Zoe, in some countries like France, you were only able to lease the battery and not own it. In other countries, it could be both. You could own it and you can lease it. Now, I'm a big supporter of leasing a battery for many reasons. Excuse me. Some of them are because one, it gives you flexibility, right? If you bought a car and you only drive to work or whatever, like 5 miles, then maybe you only need a 100-mile range battery, right? Or even less. And you don't need to spend money on a bigger battery. But let's say you got a new job or you moved and now your commute is 50 miles a day, and you need a bigger battery. You don't have to sell your car. You can just upgrade your lease to a bigger range, a little bit more expensive battery, and there you go. Second reason is because a lot of people are concerned about battery degradation and performance and so forth. This way, they don't have to worry about it. This way, someone else is leasing this, owns this battery, and if it goes bad, you just tell them, hey guys, give me another battery. And that's what lease is all about, leasing these batteries. It's very different from leasing a car, but we're just talking about leasing the battery. But apparently a lot of people didn't like it. And as I was reading the comments, I was starting to realize why. And the reason for that is apparently the lease. Now, the reason it's in the news is because they came up with an updated new lease deal where people can, now purchase the batteries, and not just lease, but also just new pricing. And they have now a fast charging battery version. So there's a bit of a deal on that. But a lot of people said that, listen, we're leasing the battery and it's actually costing us as much as if we had the same type of a car and had to put gas in it. And then on top of that, they have to buy electricity. And that completely makes it a moot point to buy an electric car as far as saving money on gas, right? That's usually one of the main reasons. Hey, listen, you don't have to spend all this money on gas, on other things. But if you spend as much money on your electricity and your battery lease as you spend on gas or more, then you're really taking away a really big advantage of owning an electric car. So yeah, thank you for those of you guys like Nigel and others in a comment section in the chat that kind of, gave me more information about this. Because I really hope they redo it, because I really like the whole battery leasing thing. I know NIO, another Chinese-based company, is doing it with their new SUVs that are coming out next year. I hope Zoe and Renault, really the manufacturer that makes Zoe, steps it up and maybe makes it a little bit more, a wallet-friendly decision for people. And I think they're going to be moving in that direction, hopefully. All right, let's talk about this company I've never heard of before, to be honest with you. Singolata Motors. I always thought that they sounds like a flavor of ice cream, which is a good thing. But apparently they had this prototype. Well, they had Falcon wing doors at first, and this is their latest, I guess, prototype. They announced the previous one like 2 years ago, actually. I completely didn't know about that. But now they're claiming that they got 2.4 or so billion in investment. That's one of the biggest investments I've ever heard for an electric car maker. Yes, they're a Chinese company that has a Chinese investment, but even with that, it's one of the biggest ones. So good for them. And they're planning on building a factory and moving forward with their sales in the next couple of years. But, and this weirded me out before with other companies, the company existed for a while, major investment, but yet their website, it looks like it's either blocked in the United States or this is just not a website at all. Let me know if you guys can access it in other countries or somewhere else in the United States. All I see is a little bit of Chinese writing in black and white, and that's it. There's no website. I couldn't find them on social media. I couldn't find them on YouTube or Instagram and so forth. As a matter of fact, this video that I took the still out of was on a channel, some other YouTube channel that was reposting that video. So that always makes me kind of worried. I mean, yes, it is Chinese company, but I would assume that it's, whenever you just want to do business in one country and no other country around it, I don't know what to think about it. As a matter of fact, you guys, you let me know. Like, is this weird or not? Should we take them seriously? Not? Is it just like Chinese company, we should leave them alone? Or I don't know. So always weirds me out. So that's another thing that I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about. And oh yeah, one more thing. Elon announced a couple of days ago that a lot of people don't always get the over-the-air updates when they want to. Like, for example, I know there's an update with a navigation system that's been going out for like over a week now, and I have 2 Teslas and neither one of them have gotten that update. So I see all these people enjoying it and I can't even get it, right? It's kind of you never know when they're rolling it out to your particular car. Now, people did say that sometimes it works if you go to their service center, connect to their Wi-Fi, and then you get the latest update. But when I said it a few days ago, some of you tried it and said that didn't work for you. Only one person said it worked for them. So I guess it works, but not always, or not as often. But now, I guess Elon said that we're going to be able to do is just if you want an update, and I'm assuming, I guess it's not going to be as often as very few people would want it, but I can say, hey, I want it right now. Boom, press the button, and you can get that update pretty much right away. Usually most of us do it overnight because it takes a couple of hours, and the car is kind of rendered useless while the update is happening. So you do it like at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, So yeah, so at first I was like, well, I don't know if it's going to work, because usually they want to roll it out in little batches, right? Because something goes wrong, they can just kind of roll it back and not as many people are affected. Also, this is just, how much their servers can handle. If the entire fleet that's growing at a really high rate right now, if everybody jumps on it. But I guess not that many people are going to jump on it. I think very few of us who really want the latest updates right away. Most people don't really care. Like with phones, like I don't get my updates. Like I don't care. Whenever they're here, I'll use it. if not, I can wait for a week or two. I'm assuming most people are going to be like this with a car, so it probably is not going to be a problem. But pretty cool, because somebody like me, I'd like to get them right away so I can talk to you guys about it. So I'm definitely excited about it, and I really hope it works out. As far as there are no technical issues or no batches that are bad that have been rolled out to too many people. All right, so guys, let me just once again remind you, I'm pretty much out of news, so this is a lot, right? This was a lot of news, definitely. So I'm excited that I'm live. For those of you guys who are watching this in the replay on YouTube, this is how it's going to be from now on. I will add the chat here, just like I said, and I appreciate everybody who is part of Patreon and who's part of contributing to the show. And the perk is from now on is that you guys will watch all of my shows live, at least have a chance to, and participate. I've been reading the chat comments from those of you guys who are watching live right now. I will incorporate them here like I've done before, just a little bit complicated technically. So please join Patreon. Patreon.com is /E4Electric is where you can find me. Some of the behind the scenes videos and pictures, I still continue posting those. So definitely you'll have a full value and more. If you want to stay on YouTube and watch me, I'm more than happy. I love having the conversation afterwards in the comment section. So nothing will change for that. Daily videos, Monday through Friday news, Saturday interview or an experience video. And on Sunday, we're going to do this sort of a recap and a hangout as always. So nothing is really going to change. But for those of you guys who do support me on Patreon, just wanted to say thank you so much for supporting the show. It's really important to me, and I can't thank you guys enough. We're gonna do it tomorrow, starting tomorrow. I mean, I know I missed the mark of 11 a.m. today, and I might miss it a couple of times. I'm sorry, because technically this has been way more complicated than YouTube, but nevertheless. All right, guys, it's been fun to be live again. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all of the comments that you post afterwards. I will definitely make sure to check them out as well. But for me, this is it for today. I'm gonna go and actually go into San Francisco Symphony today. Something I haven't done in a while, so I'm gonna enjoy that. Other than that, see you guys next time, and remember to stay charged.